morning. So out with the R.E Williams team again today, just having a look there on silage today. Just at the farm here with Liam, who's on the buck rake, which is a JCB 419. It's a 70 reg, latest 419S stage 5 machine. Just had a new fork on the front actually. Just had a quick chat with Liam about it, and he says they don't really want a folding fork because of most of the farms they work at, and this is a prime example here. Quite a small clamp. Don't get me wrong, the farm's modern, they've got lily robots for feeding, and so it's just quite a small clamp, small turning area, so like he said, they just wouldn't get the use out of a folding fork, which is fair enough. Looking at the buck rake here, it's a Strymec, which is used to be JCB standard equipment, to be honest. Everything came with Strymec attachments. This is a fixed fork with Hardox tines, so that you can see the square profile of the tine. These are made out of a super hard wearing, very strong material. Obviously these are going to be pushed against the ground thousands of times a year, so you need something fairly strong with a 190 horsepower loading shovel pushing at it. Okay, the silage pit here, you can see the side sheets. They've been placed over the edge of the clamp, and then when everything's finished they'll be folded in over the top, and then a top sheet will be applied, and then that'll be held down with sandbags or tyres to keep the air out, to keep the weather out, to keep everything underneath that sheet nice and dry. So the men are on second cut here today. There's a bit of fresh grass going on top, and Liam's just incorporating what's coming up as he's buck raking the ramp. Obviously there's a bit of last cut that's just mixing in, so you can just see that a little bit coming up, but all smells and looks like nice stuff. So yeah, let's just crack on and see what they're at. So, as you can see, Liam's opting for the lift and carry to start, and then just pushing up the remainder of the load. Push and shove, there he goes. He's just got to mix it in at the back of the clamp, so there's like there's first cut here, then there's a little bit of silage left over from last year right at the far end of the clamp, so he's just kind of trying to bridge it and mix it all in so that it all keeps well. So he's got to carry quite a bit of the grass to the beginning of the clamp. Okay, we've got the JCB 419S here, 2020 model, stage 5, Cummins engine, 193 horsepower, ag spec loader. Ag spec is cleated tyres, torque converter lockup, which Liam says he doesn't use that often, but it's there should he need to. Yeah, 17 horsepower per tonne this machine, so that's quite lively for a loading shovel. So Liam's probably got the most important job of the team today, really. The buck rate man is the man who makes the silage effectively, because if it's not ensiled properly, then you get lots of waste. If it isn't buck raked out in a uniform manner, you get air pockets, it goes off in between, you get waste on top, and it just spreads. It's like when your bread goes off in the fridge. Sorry, you don't put your bread in the fridge, do you? Like when your bread goes off, you get a little bit of mould and then it spreads throughout the whole loaf. So it starts on one day and then the next day the whole loaf's ruined, and that's what happened with silage basically. You get a little bit of mould and a little bit of waste and then it just spreads, and so if it's not ensiled properly, that's the problem. And it's an expensive hobby to get your silage wrong. So today is the perfect day, really. It's bright and dry. The guys started at about 10 AM, so let the dew come off. I don't think there was much this morning, but they've only got 100 acres to do. It's second cut, and as you'll see when the forage harvester appears, or when I get to it, that there's more than enough capacity to do 100 acres comfortably in a few hours. So they've got a 6155R, 6250R, ferrying another John Deere somewhere. There's another John Deere, I don't know which one it is. So they've got those two ferrying, Bailey trailers. It's quite dark fodder. I don't know what's in it, but it's quite dark in colour and there's a bit of stalkage in it. So I'm not quite sure what that is, but we'll have a look when we get to the field. Okay, you can just see the grass been mixed in with the previous cut. This is right to the start of the second cut job, so it's just spreading it out, trying to match it up with what's been put in before. The dark grass that was in the clam, seemingly the farmer had planted some clover, and the clover had come through, but then there'd a bit of volunteer oilseed rape had come through as well, which obviously they can't tackle with chemistry, with herbicides, because if you do that then you'll kill the clover, and the clover's there to fix nitrogen. Clover's there to fix nitrogen, so basically to feed the grass. It's a bit of a delicate balance with clover, because you don't want it to overtake the grass, because then it sours the fodder a bit, so I believe. But obviously its properties of fixing nitrogen in the ground for the grass to feed on are what you want. So the oilseed rape, the volunteers that had come through, obviously they'd been maybe it had rained hard when the crop was ripe, or it got windy when the crop was ripe, and it had just shed seeds onto the ground, which then just keep coming back through. Okay, this is that dark crop I was talking about just previously. It's volunteer oilseed rape. You can see it's really stalky, and some grass and some clover. Okay, at the front of the machine we've got the 639 grass head. This is actually a Kemper header, which John Deere use and Badger's their own. It's the 3 metre wide grass head, which pick up anything that's in a windrow basically off the ground. So at the very front you've got a little roller there, that's the crop press. It's not there to sort of level out the crop, it's there to keep the crop on the tines. So a little further back, in line with that small wheel, is a set of pickup tines. These tines are about 5mm in diameter, and there's 5 rows I think, which pick the crop up off the floor, then into the auger, or Archimedes screw if you want to be scientific about it. The auger pushes the crop in from the outside of the header into the crop feed rollers, and then the feed rollers go into the knives. I've got an animation that I've borrowed from John Deere. Hopefully I don't get shouted at for it, but that's later on in the maize section. So I'm down in the field with Liam's dad, Robin. He's driving the 97i. Check whether it's an I or not, but it's a 97 anyway, nonetheless. It's second cut, so it's not particularly heavy on. It's been rode up with the Krone 1370, which was new last year, I believe. Krone's latest rate that replaced the very, very reliable, by all accounts, 1400 rake, and the 1370 has gone down very well. I know a few people with them now, so that seems to have been a successful machine. Here comes Rob now, he's romping on down the field. Like I said, they've got 100 acres to do, so he's not got a lot left, to be honest. Trailers are catching up now because they've not got a single track road to go down. Here he is. So trailers are we've got 2 trailers on today. I thought they had 3 trailers on, but they don't. They have 2 trailers on. They've got a big long single track road to go up and down, so 3 trailers will probably just end up cluttering up. At least this way they've got 1 loading, 1 travelling, and if they know where they're meeting each other they can pass. If you had another trailer, the track's probably about 1 kilometre long, and either end there isn't much travelling to do, so with the 3rd trailer they just end up tripping over each other all the time. Oh, what's gone on here then? Crop press has come up. Metal detection, that's what's happened. So these machines have a metal detector in just further back than the part of the header you can see now in the feed rollers, and that stops the whole machine dead and until you can find the object and reset everything back into work. So they're chopping away here. You can see the speed that they're working at. You've got a 700 plus horsepower forage harvester and chopping the grass to about 20mm theoretical chop length. So it's not working very hard, so they can crack on. This is just from a camera mounted under the chute. What you can see here is the fact that everyone's got to be switched on doing this. Everyone's got to be paying attention. So your trailer man has got to keep up with the forage harvester, and depending on whether they're loading themselves or not, some contractors prefer the trailer men to load themselves. Some harvester drivers prefer to keep the trailer in one spot and load the trailer. It's either way, it's not a big chore. Depends on personal preference really. Okay, so they just finished this field. It was a big horseshoe shaped field. I don't know whether horseshoe's the right shape. Anyway, something like that, U-shaped. And so they've got to go up the lane and move into the next field. So Robin has to reverse the forage harvester into the next field because obviously the farmer has built his gateways to suit the traffic coming down the lane, not coming up the lane. So it's just reversing in. Rob's just travelling up the field here so that he's near the gate ready to chop again when the trailer comes in. Just saves a little bit of time, stops the trailers having to run down to the other end of the field. Down in the field here with the forager and the tractor and trailer. This is a typical site for UK silage making. Lots of other countries around the world use different methods, different trailers, trucks to haul the crop back. Usually in the UK you will see tractors and trailers, quite often tipping trailers like this. So this is a Bailey trailer, a British built trailer, hydraulic tip, hydraulic tailgate, and these will be used throughout the summer for silage making and into the autumn with maize harvest, which is also winter fodder for the cows. This block of land is away from the farm, so you don't see any cows in this particular block of land at this time of year, because the farmer will keep his cows grazing near the farm when they go out. So that's why there's no cows in sight. But so this block of land will be kept for growing grass for winter feed.
Bit wild today. Come out to do essentially part 2 of the Liam Williams' or R.E Williams forage harvester, having a look at that and what they do. Today they're at near Chester, North Wales border, chopping maize for a customer. It's quite windy, side sheets are going everywhere. Yeah, carnage. But anyway, so they were, when I arrived, they were opening up the field for the next field for chopping. So I thought I'll come up to the silage pit and capture this. So today we've got Liam's back on the buck rake, and we've got one of J.H. Willis's tractors here with a compactor on. He's just compacting away, just steady away, up and down all day. That is the job of the compactor. So yeah, we just had to wrestle the side sheets and throw some maize on them so that they didn't move around too much. But the wind, compared to at home where I live, which is 40 miles away, the wind is something else here. So yeah, anyway.
The wind at the clamp was something else. so the side sheets were blowing all over the place. Liam had already thrown some maize against them, but they just pulled up, so I was trying to make myself useful and hold the sheets down while Liam got them in order on one side, and then we just tidied them up on the other side. Okay, so obviously Liam's moved on from the grass at the other farm early on in the season to this maize, which is a lot easier to buck rake, I think. It's a dense crop, but it's more granular, it flows much more easily, not like grass. Grass can lump and ball a little bit, it takes a bit more managing. In the UK we tend to pack or clamp or buck rake in this manner, so we use loading shovels like Liam uses, or some people use a tractor and buck rake, but generally the method is pretty much the same, in that the loads are tipped from trailers at the bottom of the ramp and then pushed up and moved around wherever the buck rake man wants to put them. So you do see in Europe, in Holland and the Netherlands, where they use rear discharge trailers that they pull up over the clamp or reverse up the clamp and empty it, so half of the work is done. You do see some tip overs though, which is maybe a bit of a side effect of that method. And then in the USA you see different custom cutters, I guess you guys call it, using a blade to push up and just spread it around, but this is how we tend to do it in the UK. Okay, so we've got the compactor here working. Same thing as I've seen before in another one of my videos. Set of train wheels mounted on the back of the tractor. He's just trickling up and down, compacting the clamp down.
So you can hear the forage harvester, different kettle of fish cutting maize. It's usually consistent, unlike grass where it's been mown and dried and raked and then it's been moved and there's lumps in it. With maize, it's a standing crop, you're cutting it from standing, so it's a much more consistent feed in the machine. So once the machine is loaded, you load the engine with forward speed, obviously. But once the machine is under load, yeah, that's the way you can test the output of a forage harvester, is how many tons of maize it can chop an hour. Because you can load the machine properly, you haven't got lumps in the swath and bumping and banging and engine surges, you've just got constant load. So yeah, it's a 10-row Kemper header. You can hear it's got quite a distinctive noise. The Kemper header's got quite a high-pitched noise to it, because the blades underneath the header are spinning at quite a rate, so they cut the stalks. You can see, actually, there's a good example of a stalk that's been smashed by the discs, the cutting discs under the Kemper header. They're almost like a chainsaw tooth. So they spin, cut the stem, and then you can see the feed drums on top feed the crop into the feed rollers, and then further up the machine you've got a crop processor or kernel processor, corn cracker, depends where you're from, what you call it. But here it goes. Listen for the noise. Oh, it's just stopping.
Okay, I found this little animation on John Deere's YouTube channel. I've borrowed it. I hope that's okay. If somebody from John Deere says that it's not okay, then I will happily take it out. But what you've got is the crop flow of this machine. So behind the header there's the feed rollers, 4 feed rollers in the John Deere machine. The top rollers move up and down depending on the crop volume, and then that's 830 millimeters wide, I think. I don't know what language that is. Behind the feed rollers then we have the shear bar, which is in between the knives and the feed rollers. That makes the knives work like a pair of scissors. There are 48 knives in the R.E Williams machine. You can have more if you're doing bio solids for AD plants. You can get a finer chop. And then up to the crop processor here, you can see that there's 2 different sized pulleys. So inside that here is the 2 rollers. There is different levels of kernel processor depending on how much of this type of crop you chop. I think Robin's just got a standard processor in his machine, but you can see there that the arrows are saying this is running at 2 different speeds, which creates greater friction between the 2 rollers, which then further processes rather than just the closeness of the rollers. The speed differential causes more processing power to occur in there. And then above that is the crop processor, Duraline here. So it's just Duraline is a hard facing material which is on the kernel processor roller surfaces, and you can see there the tips of the paddles, they've got Duraline as well. Basically anywhere where the crop touches the inside of the machine in an abrasive manner is Duralined. And then there's a harvest lab above it, which is fitted in this machine also. Here's the underside of the Kemper header again. As you can see, it's cutting a swathe of destruction through that crop. You don't want to be standing in the way of that thing when it goes past. You can see the amount of debris that's flown from the cutting knives as well, and the state of the stalks afterwards, which is a really positive thing actually, to have the stalks smashed to pieces like that. That's a good sign, because it stops a pest from nesting in there over winter. Not so much of a problem in the UK, but it is getting here. It's a little beetle that finds a home in that stalk, lives there over winter, and then decides to wreak havoc in the next crop next year.
So these are quite hard. So you imagine each piece of that has been chopped down to about 8 or 10 millimeters by the forage harvester's knives inside, and then as that passes through the kernel processor, it's got to smash that to pieces. You imagine how hard that machine's got to work to process these down. And that machine is harvesting probably 10 tons a minute, maybe a little bit more. Fill a trailer in 2 minutes, no problem. So it's working really hard. Maximum output from the forage harvester. As Deadpool says, 100% effort. Anyway, let's go.
Okay, so they'd finished in this block of land. This was the same block of land that these guys were ploughing back in the spring. So I jumped on my bike and then went across to the farm. So there was nearly 200 acres, 196 acres in total to cut. So they moved back to the farm where the crops are a lot better actually. So I just moved my bike over there. Okay, so I'm just going to touch on the harvest lab, which is the hump on the back of the crop discharge chute. So underneath there is a sensor which uses near infrared spectroscopy, and basically what it does is it looks at the crop and it can see what the dry matter is, protein, starch, fibre, sugar content, and for other crops that are harvested like grass it can see the ash content, which is how much soil you're picking up. which obviously can impact how you set up your other machines. Linked to the Starfire dome on the front of the cab, it can then produce yield maps of the field, so you can see if everything's been calibrated correctly. The forage harvester can produce a yield map to tell the farmer where his crop's done well, where his crop's done badly, and then he can look at the soil and drainage in the field to see if he can improve that. So it's a really, really clever bit of tech. And it can also be used in slurry application as well. So another farmer that I know uses it on a slurry applicator, so I might have another video of that coming not so distant future.
So Robin is Liam's dad. He drives the forager, as from the grass video, the grass section. When he's cutting maize, some people cut maize and open up a bout, so they'll put a break in the field and then work around in a loop. I've got GoPros in my hand, so I can't use my hands to talk. So they'll cut around up and down, so they're always loading on the same side. But what Robin does is he just flips the chute around, loads on the either side of the machine, which some people like, some people don't like doing. Obviously Robin's a seasoned professional harvester driver, so he doesn't mind loading on both sides. As long as you got your trailer drivers trained, it's not too bad.
So on board with the 9.7, this machine is the 770 horsepower ish John Deere forager with the 24 litre V12 Liebherr engine in. This engine runs a little bit slower, so the maximum output you'd be chopping around sort of 1500 RPM ish. It's just a lower running engine, so it's the Liebherr emission control, Liebherr top end with a man block basically, but by the looks of things this model will have the John Deere 18X engine in from going forward, so it'll be the 18 litre John Deere stage 5 engine that doesn't need AdBlue for emission control, so that's going to be quite interesting to see that. That will also have a boost on it as well, that machine, I think. Okay, that's enough of me waffling. All the usual, comment, rate, subscribe, hit the bell. Tell me if you like it, tell me if you don't like it, tell me if there's something else that you'd like to see or a different way of seeing the machines that I'm showing you. Any feedback is welcome, as long as it's constructive. Thank you.